to the representative of Myanmar.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, at the outset, I wish to congratulate David on assuming the presidency and thank you for convening this high-level open debate. I also thank the UN Secretary General for his remarks and the acting executive director for WFP and the civil society representative for their insightful briefings. Mr. President, conflicts and insecurity remain the primary drivers of acute food insecurity for 147 million people in 2025. No doubt, the impact of regional conflicts and conflicts in general has extended beyond the immediate area of hostilities, disrupting global food, energy, agriculture supply chains, and exacerbating food insecurity. An additional 45 million people are at risk of facing acute food insecurity if the situations remain protracted. It is imperative that the UN, the Security Council, and the member states take a forward-looking approach to secure more resilient food systems and mitigate the impact of future geopolitical shocks on global hunger. At the same time, we thank the Secretary General for his recent update on the UN Task Force mechanism to facilitate the movement of goods for humanitarian purposes through the Strait of Hormuz. Mr. President, the prolonged disruption in a critical maritime corridor has a disproportionate impact on the most vulnerable, particularly those in the least developed countries and conflict-affected situations. The rising prices of commodities, fertilizers, and fuel is compounding the already dire humanitarian situations and food insecurity in Myanmar since the illegal military coup. Against this backdrop, I wish to recommend the following concrete measures to the Council to mitigate the food crisis in Myanmar in line with the Resolution 2417 as well as Resolution 2669. First, demand the military junta to comply with their IHL obligations. The military has been deliberately targeting civilian objects necessary for food production and indispensable to the survival of the civilian populations. Banning down farms, crops, livestock, agriculture assets, and airstrike over a market constitute their brutal and inhumane forecast strategy. Indiscriminate violence against civilians by the military has been the biggest driver of forced displacements, with devastating impacts on the agricultural productions and livelihoods across the country. Appeasement and voluntary engagement with the military junta have only emboldened the latter to perpetrate more violence against civilians. Second, enforce appropriate measures against the military junta. The military junta has consistently weaponized humanitarian assistance by obstructing its access and delivery to affected communities. As a recent example, the junta was confiscating essential supplies at checkpoints and arresting civilians for food relief efforts to food victims in central Myanmar. Previously, the Council adopted sanction measures on individuals and entities obstructing the delivery of all access to humanitarian assistance. As such, I urge the Council to produce a follow-up resolution on Myanmar and call upon the member states to cease the flow of arms, weapons, jet fuel, and other dual-use items and related technologies to the military junta. Third, operationalize the early warning mechanisms. FAO and WFP warn that a total of 12.4 million people in Myanmar are projected to face high level of acute food insecurity, IPC Phase 3 or above, by August, including almost 1 million population in emergency, IPC Phase 4. Around 360,000 children are expected to be acutely malnourished by September this year. Accordingly, the early warning mechanisms of Resolution 2470 must be leveraged for renewed global attention and action on the situation in Myanmar, including the swift reporting by the Secretary General to the Council. In conclusion, Mr. President, Myanmar underscored the utmost importance of translating the commitments of Resolution 2417 into effective actions when armed conflicts threaten food insecurity. Conflict-induced food insecurity in Myanmar is the direct consequence of the military coup and their widespread campaigns of violence. We all have to be mindful that short-term humanitarian support cannot replace long-term political resolutions, and repairing the symptoms of the conflict cannot substitute for addressing the root cause of the conflict. Mr. President, despite facing challenges, the National Unity Government and the Aligned Democratic Forces are coordinating through the Steering Council for Emergence of a Federal Democratic Union to address food insecurity and help alleviate the civilian populations from natural and man-made disasters. I urge the international community to support the SEF and the people of Myanmar in our collective efforts to eradicate the military dictatorship and build a federal democratic union. And thank you.
I thank the representative of Myanmar for the statement, and I now give the floor to the